So here I'm going to present about the use of digital indigenous stories for the primary school students in Malaysia. Okay, so a bit of introduction. What I'm going to be presenting is actually based on a social engagement project with my undergraduate students. They are here in the screenshot. We are here together for this project called My Tribe, My Pride. Okay, so there are 27 undergraduates. They are pursuing Bachelors of English Language and Linguistics here at University Malaya. Okay, so together we developed and shared 2 digital indigenous stories, and we shared it with 80 primary school students who are of different races and background. And this is the website that we have built. I will share it in the chat box later. Okay, a bit of why, what to work on the indigenous stories. Okay, so there have been numerous attempts to train the indigenous students, or in Malaysia, we call them orang asli, to adapt to the school system, but not much has been done to increase the non-indigenous people to develop their cultural awareness and better understand the Aboriginal people. So the weakness of the current education system and our language lessons lies mainly on the lack of attention given to the indigenous language and culture. I think this is important when we want to build racial harmony and to develop intercultural competence. We also look at the success case in New Zealand when the indigenous language and culture are incorporated in the school curriculum. Indigenous students were actually found to fare better in mainstream schools. Therefore, with this project, we aim to provide culturally relevant materials to the indigenous students who often face issues like dropping out of schools and also having problems transitioning from primary school to a higher level secondary school. Okay, we want them to feel confident when we share stories about them, when we have materials which are culturally relevant to them in their language lessons, so that they are proud of their own culture and heritage. We also have an online storytelling session to promote interactive language learning. And this is also an effort to support United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, in which we try to promote quality education as well as bridging the gap of inequality. Right, and specifically, why digital indigenous stories? We hope to inspire the indigenous students because of the issues they faced. And also currently, there are not many materials which are relevant for the indigenous students. That's why we are also documenting the stories. We are going to publish books, and also we have shared it in YouTube and also conduct live storytelling session with the kids. It's also a recommendation by the school teacher of the indigenous school. She has related to me that her children or her school children love stories. And so we develop stories and share it with her school children. Okay, and also this was carried out last year. It's a time when most of us were stuck at home due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They have to learn online. So these digital stories were shared through phones or through digital devices. So this story is not only for the target community or the Aboriginal students, but also for the non-Indigenous students to develop their cultural awareness. So we have 2 stories. Okay, the first story is a folk tale about the love tale of Seri Gumum princess, or in Malay we call her Puteri Seri Gumum. Puteri is princess. So this is a folk tale about Jakun tribe. So in Malaysia we have we call the indigenous people in Peninsular Malaysia as orang asli, but there are 18 tribes. So here we are focusing on one of the tribes, which is Jakun. Okay, so this is the story that we have produced. Okay, and the second story is related to the school teacher. It's based on a real person. which is the senior assistant of that indigenous. So this story is coping with the challenges that she has faced, and how she overcomes it. So here we have actually made her son much older. Her son was actually just 3 years old, but we imagined her son to be 12 years old, and just went into a new school. Okay, so this is the teacher, the picture of the teacher. We started by doing research or gathering references about Jakun tribe. And then we conducted interviews with the teacher of the indigenous students and also other people who are of Jakun tribe. Okay, and then we started drafting and editing the storyline based on the data collected. Okay, after we have done the story, okay, we share it with the teacher again, who is a Jakun herself. Okay, we share it with her and gather feedback from her. And then we move on to animating the story. And we have the digital storytelling session last year in October. So we shared these 2 stories. And after each story, we have an activity. The first one, we had a Kahoot quiz. And the second one, we have a Padlet activity. Okay, during the session via Google Meet, the students are also free to type their responses in the chat box. Okay, so we have around 80 indigenous and non-indigenous students aged 9 to 12 years old from 3 different schools in 3 different states involved. And after the session, we gather the feedback from the primary school teachers and students through interviews and questionnaires. Okay, so we did ask, for the students, we gathered about 57 responses from the students, and we have 2 teachers who have responded as well. Okay, so most of the participants preferred the first story. It's a folklore, right? And the reasons, was because they find the storytelling more interesting and fun. They also love the genre, such as because it involved romance, adventure, and history. It's also related to a real island in Malaysia. In this story, we have fictional characters like prince, princess, dragons, and seems that the participants like these characters. It's based on a real island in Malaysia. And the participants found the art and sound effects attractive. But if we look at the pie chart here, most important element that influence the participants' preference is the storyline. Okay. And we asked the teachers as well, what do they think? Do they prefer story 1 or story 2? And if you look at the comments by, let's look at teacher 2, T2. She loves the animation and the sound effect of the folklore. So the students here, they have actually put in quite a lot of effort to create the animation, and the sound effects with thunder, those make the story more interesting. It sustained the audience more than story 2. Okay, for teacher 1, she's the teacher from the indigenous school, as shown in this picture. Okay, so she says story 1 is short and exciting, interesting. So the folklore is short and it's interesting to her. For story 2, her kids who are indigenous students, they are excited for about 5 minutes when they see their school. So in the story, we actually shared the school, we shared the teacher, but they felt that there are too many dialogues between the mother and son. The audio quality is not clear. So here, the undergraduate students, they were working on this project at their respective home. Some students do not have good device that will help them to create, that will help them to produce good audio quality videos. So despite that, there are still students who like story 2, which is about an inspiring figure, mainly because of the message. Yeah, the message from this story, because it teaches them to keep going and don't give up on dreams. So they find this inspiring, motivating, okay, which is the aim of this story as well. Yeah, they find generally about, not generally, but only 20% find the storyline to be good and fun. So perhaps we need to add more characters to make it more interesting, as suggested by the participants. Okay, animation, yeah, they like it. Yeah, it's fun. So this is the ratings for story 1. Basically, they agree that they could understand the story is at the right level. The story is interesting. Pictures are beautiful. They like sound effects. We have provided glossary. They find that helpful. And we also asked whether they would like to read this from a book or watch the video again, and whether the subtitle is informative and whether they like the storyline. Okay. For story 2, the questions were similar and the response were also similar, mainly agree. Okay. Yeah, but the lowest one is they do not really want to read it from a book, right? This gets the lowest mean. Yeah. Okay. Maybe this suggests that they do love digital stories with animations and people reading the story to them. Okay. And we also asked the students, the primary school students, what have they learned? Yeah, so there are 3 main things that they have learned. The first one is moral values. They learn for the folklore story, they learn the value of love, hard work, and the importance of respecting their parents. They learn about the indigenous culture or Orang Asli culture. They learn the beliefs of Orang Asli and the legend of Tioman Island. Vocabulary, yeah, so they could actually mention the words that they have learned. For example, companion, rumbling, fleeting. For story 2, yeah, they also learn moral values, but different kinds of moral values here. Here mainly it's bravery, resilience, and hard work. And for Orang Asli culture, over here they learn about the livelihood and challenges of Orang Asli. Yeah, and they also learn vocabulary, but different vocabulary here as well. Okay, we gather their feedback on how we could improve. They highlighted duration, especially the duration of the meanings of words of the glossary. So in this digital video, we have included, we have highlighted vocabulary and we have made it more salient, and we have included the meaning, but they felt that it appeared too short. Okay, some say they couldn't see it because they lack time. So perhaps we will need to improve in this aspect. Yeah. And for this folklore, this ending is actually quite sad. The princess and the prince, they die. So some suggested alternate endings to the story. They don't really like sad ending. Perhaps for a follow-up activity, yeah, we could actually ask them, how could we change the ending? Yeah. All right, that could be an interesting activity, how to change the ending. And for story 2, which is about the inspiring figure, the students also talked about duration. And this also made us wonder, how long should a digital story be? So far for digital story number 1, about folklore, it's about 14 minutes. And this story 2 is about 12 minutes. So they want this to be a bit longer. And they also highlighted the importance of audio quality and animation. Okay.
We have to quickly finish up now, if you can,
sure,
please.
Sure. Okay, sure. So this is
question time.
All right. So this is the event. This is the indigenous students. They don't have the luxury of technological devices, so they come to the school to join. And this is the online storytelling session review. Basically, they like it. Yeah. because I'm wrapping up, so I'm going quickly here. And these are the suggestions for the storytelling session. Yeah, they want something more challenging or small group discussions. And some even suggested Zoom platform, like what we are using now instead of Google Meet. Also suggestions such as including games and dance. Yeah, right. Feedback from the teachers. And in conclusion, the primary school students generally love the indigenous digital stories. The important elements that we find the participants to have concentrated on is the storyline and message, illustrations, and audio quality. What they have learned, yeah, our target students, they have learned vocabularies, moral values, and orang asli culture. There are some important suggestions include incorporating games and dance, small group discussions or activities, and more challenging quizzes. What we need to look into in future for the digital stories would be the duration of it, illustrations and animation. Storytelling session, then we need to look into the presentation mode or platform. So overall, by highlighting indigenous cultures through digital storytelling, we believe that this project helps to reframe the non-indigenous students or non-orang asli communities' understanding of the indigenous culture and identities in a more positive manner. Also helps to build mutual understanding, enhance literacy skills, and foster inclusive values amongst the school children. So that's all. Thank you.